What's up everybody, my name is Zosh. I'm at Hybrid Racing headquarters alongside with Will from Hybrid Racing, and I'm glad I'm able to sit down with you to talk to you more about the history of Hybrid Racing, get to know more about the company from your side of things since you basically started all of this, and I hope you guys are also interested in this. So to kick things off, what started your love for cars?
So for cars, I mean, like, I think most kids, like I was telling you earlier, like, you know, when you're young, you don't really have that freedom or that mobility, so you tend to, you know, like when you get your first car, like you're into it, and like you get to like travel and go to places and go hang out with your friends and stuff. So I think that's kind of like cars. It started with the obsession of getting my first car, and then it just kind of progressed from there. Once I had it, it was just what can I do to it, and how can I make it faster or, you know, sound better, or any of those normal things I think you kind of run into. And then around the same time, like I was reading an issue of Honda Tunings. Back then we used to go to the bookstore instead of like going to the internet. We would go to the bookstore and there's like all these magazines, Magazine Rock, you can see them, they're all like tons of magazines. And I found that there was like a specific magazine for Hondas, which was Honda Tuning. And so I was basically just reading that, and I was following all those guys and the people that were working on cars and engine swaps. And so that kind of, I guess, kicked off my passion for cars.
So like, what drove your passion for Hondas? Like, what made you like really want to work that?
I think like why we started with Honda was more or less like from a cost perspective. I don't come from like a super rich family or anything, and basically like your first car was a reasonable car, and it was a Honda. It just so happened that Honda also had like, you know, other nicer engines, and there's a whole performance scene kind of building up around the Honda chassis. So yeah, I would say like Honda by not by choice then, it was just
by default.
Like, yeah, by default. Like it was just kind of like,
it
alright, like I'm gonna get a Civic, it gets good gas mileage, like. But then like the performance side started to kick in, and then it was a challenge, right? Like how can we make how can I make this thing as fast as this other guy's, you know, Mustang that, you know, he got for whatever reason, right? So I think that kind of is why I continue to work on Hondas. And then once you actually get into the Honda world and like, you know, see how they do the engine design, work on, you know, all of this stuff, you just start to, I guess, get fascinated by it.
Yeah, and appreciate it. Like the workmanship, the craftsmanship that goes into the Honda. Going from there to the Hondas, like what for you start? Like, how did hybrid racing come about in the early? What's the early stages?
So I mean, as we were doing our own engine swaps and working on other people's cars, it turned into a little bit of a side business while I was in high school and then some in college. And then I guess like hybrid came about. The original name, right, was like a hybrid of a motor and a chassis. And back in the day, there was like a lot of websites they had all the information about swaps, like either forums or websites. And so like I think there was one, it's called like hybrid.jp, or like I don't remember. It's some of those guys from California, and that word just kind of stuck with us. It didn't mean like green cars or green energy and any of that stuff. And so we were just like, yeah, like hybrid racing. Like we do engine swaps, we help people do swaps, or we do swaps, and it just seemed like a cool name.
So like, how did you, like, for anyone asking like, yo, how did they even like get the motors? Like, how did you have that connect in a way of like getting engines imported?
I mean, there were forums, right? Okay. So like, and there were websites. We didn't necessarily have one back then, but so H Motors was really big back then. Steve from H Motors is a good guy, and we would just buy motors, B-series motors from him. So like when he said he had a K28, I think back then it was like the dropout was like $6 or $7 grand. And we just decided like, this is what we're gonna do. And so I'm pretty sure we got all the stuff from him back then. He had already been helping us. We had been I've been doing business with Steve since like 2000. Yeah, so like he was the guy to get motors from. He still is today. At least that's what we recommend, just because we trust him. He was cool because he would like, I would send him a motor, like we would get something in if there was a problem, like next day air, like he would ship us the part. And, like, and we were just regular customers back then. Like if the distributor was bad or if the linkage was broken or whatever. So yeah, we just worked with him and we got the motors, and then I had fabricating friends that knew how to fabricate, and then through like the process of wanting to do this, we came across like an old guy named Jackson, and he was basically like a tool and die maker from like the 60s and 70s. So he's a little older. He was wild. He was like a Harley biker with long hair. He was crazy. He was in like Vietnam, and like he was just wild. But he was like a really good machinist. And he kind of like did it in his garage, and I got introduced to him, and I was like, we want to make all this stuff, and he kind of took us under his wing. And I'll show you later. We have some like the old like hand drawn prints of our old mounts.
Wow.
Where like he like drafted them. I mean, at that time there was digital stuff, but like he was still living in that kind of era. And so what we made, like we made the billet mounts. Right, he helped us design those and make them. And then he helped us like get a CNC machine and like show us how to use it. And he was just basically like the guy that helped introduce us like a crash course in like manufacturing.
Yeah, so that's how you got your foot in that.
Yeah, and then like once we started doing that, we were like, well, we can make all this stuff. Like we can make all kinds of things.
The progression of hybrid racing over the last decade plus, like decade and a half. What has been for you like your defining moment in hybrid? Like what was the thing like, wow, like look what I accomplished?
Outside looking in, like you always want to look and say like, oh, that's when it happened. But like it's just kind of like a constant progression, right? So like it wasn't like any one thing happened or didn't happen that like defined us. I would say there were some moments where we made some really, I guess, important decisions. So in 2005, I want to say it was 2005, but Hurricane Katrina happened, and so we were in Mandeville, and like we had to like leave to evacuate, and then there was, our lights were out for like a couple of months. And around that time, like I was still really young, and I was like, well, do we still want to do this? Anyway, so we ended up moving the whole shop here to Baton Rouge around that time. And I was in school at LSU because everybody struggles with that at a younger age. Like you stay in school or like you go after this other thing. And I would say like I guess we had started to do pretty well. Like we had done maybe $700,000-800,000 in sales in this like year while I was still in school.
And the year is what? 2000.
That was probably like 2006, 2005.
And you guys started back in 2003.
Yeah, it was a slow progression. I mean, like we didn't make like tons and tons of money. I mean, when we first started in our like, we were in a storage unit basically, and I was just like I said on the website, right? Like I was just eating at Wendy's and Taco Bell, sleeping on the floor in the shop. Like literally, I lived there. In the early days, we didn't have any money. It was just pure passion.
Pure passion.
And we were just like chasing this idea that we could work on cars and make parts, and I don't know. It seemed better than like working for somebody.
Yeah, that's not your man.
Yeah, I don't know. We weren't making as much money as if we would just had a job, but we were doing what we wanted to when we woke up.
Exactly. Yeah.
You had that energy when you wake up. You're just like, I'm gonna go work on this thing that's mine today.
Yeah. Totally.
And so anyway, once we were here, I was still in school because I was kind of like trying to balance that. And I remember being in class, and I don't think I had an iPhone then. I don't think they had come out, or maybe it just come out, or maybe I was on like the old Nokia.
Yeah.
And I was like texting a customer, or a customer had texted me. Pretty sure it was the iPhone 1, but we were talking, and the teacher was like, get off your phone. And I'm thinking like, what am I doing here? Like, I have all these customers, and like I'm in class. So I remember I got up and I left the class. A little dramatic, but I left the class because he called me out. I guess I always had a little problem with authority.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I need this. And so I remember I called my father-in-law. I called him up and I said, like, I'm thinking about dropping out, but I don't know what I should do. And he was like, I wouldn't tell this to most people, but if you think that's the right path for you, like, just go do it. I walked from that class to the registrar's office, and I withdrew.
Wow.
And I came and I left.
Wow.
And then, David and the sales guys, because they would always call me like, what do I do about this? Or what do we do about this? And so anyway, I left, and I just felt like this relief, like, okay, I can just do my thing.
Yeah.
And so we went back. That next year we did like 1.4 million in sales. Like I was just focused on it.
Yeah. Since you did that, you had more time for this. You put more effort, more.
Oh, it was all.
Yeah, it was all. Yeah. So like
80 hours a week. Like that was it.
Grinding,
but she was like, she knew like, okay, like if I want to see you, I'm gonna be coming to the shop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. So, like, from just going from there to, like, you know, learning more about, like, how you came to what this is now.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, how did you get into the whole business side?
As an entrepreneur, or as, maybe not as an entrepreneur, I don't particularly, I mean, I like the word, but, like, it's not really, I don't, like, identify as one. I don't go around saying, like, I'm an entrepreneur. But I think at its root, I was just always, like, really curious, and I wanted to learn, and I wanted to understand things more. Just, you know, you're just trying to figure out the world. So it started with the same area where I learned about cars, but I liked the bookstore. Right? I would go to the bookstore, I would find magazines, I would find books. And it was like, okay, this book's telling me, like, how you start a business.
Yeah.
And I have kind of, like, this ability to get real, like, laser focused on something and just, you know, like, you just locked in and you spend, like, 15, 20 hours just reading, trying to figure it out. And I think at that time, I found a magazine, and this is another probably pretty big inflection point. I found a magazine, it was called Inc. It was Inc. magazine, or Entrepreneur magazine, and there was an article in it about an organization called the Entrepreneurs Organization. It's called EO. And so I looked it up, I was like, oh, this seems cool. There was a local guy in Baton Rouge that they had interviewed, and so it was here, and I was like, okay, so it's like something I could maybe go figure out if, like, they can help me.
Yeah.
And through that, I went to look, and this was before we had hit that 1.4. It was around that same, like, 2005, 2006. So I found this organization called EO, but to join, you had to, the goal was you had to be doing at least $1 million in sales to get in. So I was like, oh, okay. And then, like, at the bottom of the page, it said, well, there's this other program, it's called Accelerator, and if you have done over $250,000 in sales, then you could join that. And it was like these meetings with other business owners, like a non-profit type deal, and you all come together and talk about business. And I remember going from, like, as a business owner, I would say, it can be kind of lonely, like, because you're the guy trying to make all the decisions and do all the stuff. It's not like you have a lot of people to talk to about serious things. And so through Accelerator, I remember I went to my first one, and I went in and I started talking about this stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, like, I'm not alone. Like these other 30 young entrepreneurs in this room, like, they're struggling with the same stuff. And I think at that, it was almost like a religious moment, but it was just like, I found my people.
Yeah.
Like these people get it. Like, they don't want to work for someone else. They want to build something. They're trying to figure it out. And the goal of Accelerator is to help you graduate into EO. And so I think about a year and a half later, I ended up graduating and getting into EO. And then through EO, you basically have, like, other heads of businesses that you get to sit with every month that are more like your friends. That was also a really big inflection point for Hybrid.
You know, if I came to you, like, hey, what about your product that's different from this company's product? Why should I put my money in your product if I don't know nothing about you? Like, I'm just just a new customer. Like,
I don't think I would. It's not necessarily about selling as much as it is about, like, are we going to help you accomplish the goal?
Okay.
So, like, if you come to me and say, I want to do a case swap, we're going to do everything we can to help you accomplish that. Now, sure, like, we're going to sell you products along the way, hopefully. But just like you can go on our site and find the case swap guide, it's free, it's all the information. Now, it has our products in it and it talks about the things, but all of that information is free. And we give it away freely because we want the swap to be able to happen, and we're hopeful that by us helping you figure out things, that you'll choose some of the parts from us. Some of our specific products, it's just either in the craftsmanship, like, we wholeheartedly believe, like, our product is better. It could be, I think if you look at all of our products, we never take, like, or we try not to, or I wouldn't say we try not to, I say we never, like, just say, okay, like, this base thing. We always say, like, how can we make it better?
Yeah.
How can we make it different? How can we make it, we call it internally, like, the sauce. So, like, how can we give it, like, that hybrid sauce, right? And we sell the awesome sauce, but internally, kind of, that's how we, you know, it's just like that spirit of our product, and you can see it. You know, what company will make a dipstick? And then we look at it and say, like, well, what is the actual problem that customers are facing, right? Is it sticking? Is it easy to get out? You know, how can we make it look nicer? How can we make it more like OEMs? And how can we make it more reliable? And so, like, our dipstick, we could have took the easy route and just made a dipstick and put our name on it. But we invested a lot of time and energy to come up with a solution that was not the same as everybody else that just wants to make a quick buck, but we wanted to make it, like, better. And our oil cap is the same way, right? It's not like we could put our name on a generic oil cap and sell you an oil cap, but we put in some engineering time to make it kind of different, right? With the flip top, makes it easier to get off. These are simple things when you look at them, but like we put a lot of effort and time into trying to make those special. And I guess the most recent example is like with the B-Series shifter. And that shifter's been around since like 1980, 88 or 87 or whatever, you know, like 89 I think is the first CRX or whatever in Japan that came with B-Series. So like, it's a long time for a product to just exist, and no one stopped to say like, how can we actually like make this better? And what can we do to make it easier for customers on the install, on the adjustment, just all of it. As a customer, as the same kid that I was in my garage working on my own car, how can we help facilitate them putting this product on? So we try to think of the product in all stages, not just like development, design, but also install, aftercare, like how you manage it. So we don't just think like, okay, here it is, and then like it's on you, go figure it out. We want to make that whole process, that whole experience easier. So you can just do it. Like our install guides are all digital. Like you can go on your phone, you can walk through each step. You can do that. You can call us. So yeah, it's like that whole process.
You know you can make a product to sell and make a quick flip of a buck.
Yeah,
you choose not to because you care more about the quality.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of easy things that you can just go do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's plenty of companies where we can go out and say, hey, we want to put our name on this and throw our name on something and then just sell it to everybody.
Yeah.
But for me personally, and I think for a lot of the guys here, like we're putting our name on it. It's not just a product. We need to feel like we added value to it, so that when we're communicating with our customers, we can say like, yo, this is good. Like, we feel good about this. If I don't design it, or we don't take a part in it, or we're not part of the manufacturing, we have no control over that. And then I'm just saying like, yeah, it's good. Yeah. But like, we're real cautious about doing those types of things. There's very few products that our engine mounts, we work closely with Innovative on those. So we didn't do a lot of the design, but we actually provide feedback on the product and say like, this is how we can make it better. Because we know there are certain things like we're not the experts in, right? Like I'm not going to be the expert in dampers and spring rates and all the other stuff. There are really good companies that do that. I would much rather say, hey, this is that company, instead of saying like, hey company, can I put my name on this and then like rebrand it and sell it to you. I just think it's disingenuous. I mean, it works in some cases if you can actually add value and make it better.
Let's say if I wanted to like get into the industry in the way of like, I love cars. I don't want to really work for somebody else. I want to do my own thing. I want to get my foot in an industry. I want to be a sales marketing guy. I want to have some type of employment in the car industry.
So you want to work in the car industry?
Yeah, like I want to
start your own thing.
Okay, I guess like
I can answer them both. But
yeah, for both.
I think if you want to work in the industry, obviously like depending on what role you want, you need to start to develop those skills. Okay. So if you want to be in sales, want to be in marketing, then like go figure out how to be a good salesperson, a good marketer. You can do that in school, or you can do that just online. There's lots of resources online. Ultimately, I think once you kind of know what you'd like to do in a company, then just reach out to them and just say like, you'd be surprised. Like I don't get a lot of people that are just like, I really want to work here, right? So go find the companies, maybe like 3 to 5 companies that you really would like to work for, and reach out to them and say like, are you guys hiring? Like, what can I do? And I think that goes a long way. Just like if you're proactive, not just reactive. If you want to start your own business, I would say like think really hard about it. Yeah, it can be stressful and like scary, and I would say just start small and kind of have a backup plan, just like I did. I was still in school, but work on it, and over time, ask questions, be open to understanding things. I don't email me. I can help you, but I think it's a certain knack, and like you'll know. Yeah, like it's like if you're really passionate about it, and it's starting to certain whatever things you're doing are working. Like if you're trying to sell this thing or that thing, you'll know. It'll start to pick up, just like with your channel, right? Like it was a labor of love for a long time before it became like more than that. Yeah. And I think those are the best kind of businesses and then just be willing to shut up and listen to other people. So that like that was my biggest thing. It's like I always thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
And so like it was hard for me, but then like I just stopped talking and just listen and try to like put yourself in another person's shoes, like try to be empathetic to like the experiences that they've had in business, so that way you can learn from that and it'll help you leapfrog, so you can move faster instead of like, oh, this guy's saying do this, like he made these mistakes, and then you go out and you do something and you're like, oh, I made that same mistake. That if I would have just listened and like thought about it more.
Yeah. So we talked about pretty much everything hybrid racing, right? Now we talked about how you came up and you're saying you grinded your way to where we're at now. Where do you see hybrid going 10 years from now? Like, where do you see yourself in the future? Like, 5 years, 10 years? Like, what do you see? Like, what do you want to happen for hybrid racing in the future?
I mean, I think we have some really exciting products that we're going to launch this year. We recently raised like a round of funding to do even more, so that's kind of exciting. That's new news.
Awesome.
So that's kind of exciting. We have a lot of new products that we've been working on, so those are all going to start coming out this year. Around in the Honda industry, things that we just really wanted to work on. But I think kind of the progression is not to just continue to stay focused on Hondas, but to also like start to branch out into other makes and models. That might not be under the hybrid name, but I think that there's some opportunities to take some of the things that we're doing and apply them to other vehicles. So hybrid will always be a Honda and Acura company, and it'll always be about swaps and Honda and the history of Honda. Just as much as we can do with Hondas in that world, I think we're going to keep that way. But I also think there'll be some really cool stuff that you'll see later, probably towards the end of the year, where we're going to start to try to do more in other industries. And I think that's going to help us expand.
I think so. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of the future. We're still looking at like other types of swaps, and if people have ideas for products that they'd like to see, that they feel like are problems that they face and they want a solution for, then they can reach out to us. We take those seriously. We get enough of them. Like with our EP3 shifter, that was one of our customers on Facebook. He messaged me and he was like, hey, will you make a shift for an EP3? And I said, you go out and find like 50 people that want it, then we'll put in the time to develop it for you.
Wow.
And so they went out and they found it was like 100 people said like, I want one. And so off the back of that, we started designing it and then we launched it. That one took a little longer, but I think now we've kind of gotten that process faster. So if there are enough people that want something, and it's in the Honda and Acura world, or even not, then like we'll go after it if we feel like we can add value to it. But I think the future is about it's more products, so hopefully like some more brands, and to continue to help our current customers and just grow. I mean, there's also things internally that we're always building, whether it's upgrading systems or softwares or buildings or equipment. But
that's awesome.
The big thing for the year, I think, will be the new products and hopefully some new brands.
That's sick. Hopefully they have some Evo stuff if I get my Evo. Hopefully it's like a cool Evo shifter or something cool. Because like that'd be awesome. Like touching in those markets, like the Subaru market.
It's interesting you say that because we actually have already developed some Evo stuff.
Wow. So this is some breaking news stuff. That's awesome. That's a way to end off a hybrid racing interview with the guy of hybrid racing. So Will, thank you for having me able to do this with you. I think it's awesome learning more about the company, you as a person, the passion that you had to make all this happen. And I think the viewers at home watching this will like find this very motivating for them to start something. They don't have to like look at it like, oh, everyone's telling me to do the 9 to 5, but I want to do something that's like I want to have passion about. And like hearing your success story of how you had to sleep in the shop to make just to make it work. And it's just like it's really dope that I can sit down with you from like my standpoint, because like I didn't want the 9 to 5. I wanted to make content that I just wanted to use my time and effort to something that I wanted to build for like my future. And like it's great that you have that mindset that I had, or that I have the mindset that you had and you still have today. And so I just want to say thank you for the opportunity for me, having me out here to do everything. And guys, just check out Hybrid Racing. You can find more about their story on their About Us section on their website. And if you like parts, I have a discount code link down below, or you can just use 5 off Zosh. And thank you guys for watching. All the social media to Hybrid Racing will be down below. All the social media to my socials will be down below. And hope you guys have a great one. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you later. Bye.